Chapter 1. A Strange Incident. One Sunday morning, Mr. Utterson, a lawyer, and his friend Mr. Enfield were strolling down a London street. Mr. Enfield began to tell Utterson about a strange incident he had witnessed in that street.
Do you see that building with the black door? Every time I see it, I am reminded of the strange incident I saw here recently. One cold morning I was walking home this way when I saw a strange little man walking quickly down the main street. At the same time, a little girl was running down a side street. And unfortunately, the two collided. But the little man did not even stop. He trampled on her deliberately as she lay screaming. Then he ran off. I ran after him, collared him, and took him back to the injured girl.
Kill him!
Hang him!
He's a devil!
You must pay this poor girl's family £100, or I will make a scandal.
Very well. I will bring you the money.
To my surprise, the cheque he gave me was in the name of a respectable gentleman. But this cheque is not in your handwriting.
That is not important. It is good.
I didn't trust him, so we went to the bank together, and incredibly, the cheque was good.
I will not ask you to tell me the name of the respectable gentleman who signed it.
No, of course not. That would not be correct.
But what was the name of the strange little man?
It was Hyde. Edward Hyde.
Chapter 2. Dr. Jekylls' Will. Mr. Utterson, who was a lawyer, returned to his office to get something from his safe. He pulled out some papers and began to read. It was Dr. Henry Jekylls' will.
In case of Henry Jekylls' death or disappearance, all his possessions must go to Edward Hyde. I didn't like this will before, but now, after hearing Enfield's story, I like it even less.
Mr. Utterson decided to go and see Dr. Lanyon, Dr. Jekylls' friend and colleague.
What can you tell me about our friend Henry Jekyll?
To tell you the truth, I haven't seen him for some time.
Why not?
I absolutely cannot agree with his crazy scientific ideas.
Mr. Utterson often went back to the building with the black door.
If he is Mr. Hyde, then I shall be Mr. Seek.
But he didn't see Hyde again until one day.
Mr. Hyde.
Yes, what?
I am Mr. Utterson, a friend of Henry Jekyll. Can you please turn around so that I can see your face?
Here is my Soho address, sir. It could be useful.
After meeting the strange Mr. Hyde, Utterson decided to talk to Dr. Jekyll.
Good evening, Poole. Is Dr. Jekyll in?
No, sir, he is not.
And Mr. Hyde?
What? Well, sir, Dr. Jekyll has given him permission to come here whenever he wants.
Really?
Mr. Utterson did not see Hyde that night, but later he had terrible nightmares about him and his friend Henry Jekyll. Chapter 3. The KRU Murder. Dr. Jekyll left his scientific work for some time and began to see his friends again. One night he had a party.
You must promise me that you will do everything that you can for Edward Hyde if I die or disappear.
Well, if you insist, I promise you. I don't like this at all.
1 year later, in October, Dr. Jekyll's maidservant has witnessed a horrible crime. She has gone to the police station to tell her story.
Why were you looking out of the window at that hour?
Well, it was beautiful last night, and I was thinking, what a wonderful and beautiful world it is. Then I noticed a distinguished old gentleman in the light of the lamp below. He greeted another man in the shadows. This other man has been to my master's house many times. His name is Hyde.
Good evening, sir.
I could not hear very well, but I think the old gentleman asked Mr. Hyde for directions. Then, for some reason, Mr. Hyde became furious. He began to strike the old gentleman furiously, and when the gentleman fell, Mr. Hyde trampled on him, and then I fainted. Later, the police found a wallet and a gold watch in KRU's pockets. They also found a part of Mr. Hyde's cane. It was broken because Mr. Hyde had hit Lord KRU with such terrible violence. They also found an envelope with Mr. Utterson's address on it. Early the next morning, Inspector Newcomen went to see Mr. Utterson.
Is this your name and address?
I will not say anything until I have seen the body. This could be serious.
Chapter 4. The House of Hyde. Mr. Utterson dressed, had a quick breakfast, and then went straight to the police station.
So?
Yes. I'm afraid that this is the body of Sir Danvers Carew.
Utterson recognised the cane. He had given it to Henry Jekyll many years ago as a present.
The maidservant says the murderer's name is Hyde. Here is part of the murder weapon.
It can't be. But yes, this is Jekyll's cane. I can take you to Hyde's home.
Utterson and Newcomen went to Hyde's house in Soho.
Is Mr. Hyde at home?
No, he isn't.
Can we see his rooms?
No!
Madam, this gentleman is Inspector Newcomen of Scotland Yard.
Oh, is Mr. Hyde in trouble then? What has he done now? The maidservant took Utterson and Newcomen to Edward Hyde's rooms. This is Mr. Hyde's room.
Look, here is the other half of the murder weapon. Look, Hyde has tried to burn these cheques. He must be desperate. Probably hasn't got any money. It will be easy now. We will distribute handbills with a description of this man Hyde. We'll catch him easily.
But the inspector's job was not so easy. Everyone who had seen Hyde agreed that he was deformed in some way, but all of them described him differently. Chapter 5. Handwriting. Later that same day, Utterson went to talk to Dr. Jekyll in person. The butler, Paul, led him through the laboratory towards the doctor's private cabinet.
There it is, sir.
Have you heard about KRU?
Of course. They were shouting about it in the square.
Poor KRU is my client too. You aren't hiding Hyde, are you?
No. In fact, I'm sure that I will never see him again. I received this letter from Hyde today. In it he says that he will never return.
But wasn't the letter in an envelope? The postmark could help us to find Hyde.
I burned the envelope. Anyway, a messenger brought it.
You have been lucky, Jekyll. I think Hyde wanted to kill you for your money. Your will says...
Yes, perhaps. But more than that, I have had a hard lesson.
Before leaving, Utterson asked Paul a question.
What was the messenger like who brought Dr. Jekyll that letter today?
Excuse me, sir. No messenger has been here today. I am certain.
More mysteries.
Mr. Utterson was now very worried. That evening he decided to ask Mr. Guest, his head clerk, for his opinion on Hyde's letter. Mr. Guest was a handwriting expert.
This is a very sad business about Sir Danvers Carew.
Yes, sir. The public is very disturbed by it. This man, Hyde, is mad, of course.
Yes, indeed. I have a letter here, written in the murderer's own hand. I would like your opinion on the handwriting.
Well, this handwriting is certainly odd, but the man who wrote it is not mad.
Just then, the butler came in with an invitation for Mr. Utterson.
What is that note, sir? Is it private?
No, it's an invitation from Dr. Jekyll.
May I see it?
Yes, of course.
My dear Utterson, tomorrow evening I am having a party at my house. Please come. Yours, Henry Jekyll. Jekyll, I promise that you will never see me again. I am leaving forever. Sincerely, Edward Hyde.
These two hands are almost identical. Look.
What? Henry Jekyll forged for a murderer. I can't believe it.
Chapter 6. The Death of Lanyon. Time passed, and a reward of thousands of pounds was offered for information about Sir Danvers Carew's murderer. Witnesses told the police about many terrible things that Hyde had done, but no one could find him. It seemed he had simply disappeared.
Strange idea.
That's an awfully plastic job.
At this time, Dr. Jekyll left his laboratory work and started to see his old friends again. On the 8th of January, he went to a party with Lanyon and Utterson. It was just like old times. Then, on the 12th of January, Utterson went to visit Jekyll at home, but...
I'm sorry, sir, but Dr. Jekyll does not want to see anyone.
Utterson returned again on the 12th, the 14th, and the 15th of January. But each time, Paul told Utterson the same story. Utterson began to feel sad and perplexed. He decided the next day to go and see his other old friend, the jovial Dr. Lanyon.
I have had a terrible shock. I don't think I shall ever recover. My life was pleasant. I enjoyed it. But now...
My dear chap, Henry Jekyll is ill too. he will see no one.
Don't talk to me about Jekyll. I don't want to hear his name. For me, he does not exist. He is dead.
But why? We three are old friends.
No more. After I am dead, you will learn everything. But for now, I cannot tell you anything.
Lanyon refused to say more. Utterson went home very disturbed. He didn't understand why Lanyon was so furious with Jekyll. 1 week later, Lanyon was dead. The day after the funeral, Utterson went back to his studio, opened the safe, and pulled out a large envelope from Lanyon.
Private for J.G. Utterson alone. I am afraid to read what is inside, but I must.
Inside the envelope was another, smaller envelope.
What's this? Not to be opened until the death or disappearance of Dr. Henry Jekyll. I want to know what it contains, but no, I must respect Lanyon's wishes. I must wait.
Chapter 7. At the Window. A few weeks later, Mr. Enfield and Mr. Utterson were out walking again. They arrived in front of that strange black door in Soho.
Well, we will never see Mr. Hyde again.
I hope not. Did I tell you that I saw him, and that I too had the same feeling of repulsion as you?
Did you? Did I tell you that I've discovered this courtyard is the back way to Dr. Jekyll's house?
Let's go in and look. I'm worried about my friend Jekyll. Jekyll! Hello! I hope you're better.
I am very low, Utterson. Very low. But it will not last long now, thank God.
You stay too much indoors. You should take a turn in the fresh air with us. Come now, get your hat and take a quick turn with us.
Thank you, but no. It is quite impossible. I am glad to see you. I can't invite you in because it is really not fit.
Well then, we can stay down here and talk to you.
But suddenly, Dr. Jekyll's face began to change strangely, and change still more until he had an expression of absolute terror and despair, and then he quickly closed the window and disappeared inside. Enfield and Utterson left in silence.
God forgive us. God forgive us.
Chapter 8. Foul Play. Then, one cold evening in March, Mr. Utterson was sitting by the fireplace when Poole arrived unexpectedly.
What is wrong, Poole?
Oh, sir, the doctor has been shut up in his cabinet since last Sunday.
Please try to be clearer, Poole.
I think there has been foul play.
Poole convinced Utterson to come to Dr. Jekylls' house. When they arrived, they found all the servants gathered around the fireplace in the drawing room.
Thank God, it's Mr. Utterson!
Very irregular. Very unseemly.
They're all afraid. Now, sir, I want you to come with me to the cabinet. I want you to hear.
Poole took Utterson down to the laboratory and the stairs that led to the door of Dr. Jekyll's private cabinet.
Mr. Utterson is here to see you, sir.
Tell him I cannot see anyone.
Well, sir, was that my master's voice?
It seems changed.
Changed? I have worked for the doctor for 20 years. I know my master's voice. 8 days ago my master was taken away. Now there is a creature in there who cries to God. That creature has also left us notes to take to the chemist's. He needs some sort of drug. The notes are not in my master's hand. Look!
But this is your master's hand, Poole, or at least it's very similar. The doctor could be ill. Perhaps he has some terrible disease.
The handwriting doesn't matter. I have seen the creature who is inside that room. He's a horrible dwarf.
Let us speak clearly, then. That creature inside, could it be Edward Hyde?
Yes, sir. I believe so.
The door to the cabinet was locked. Utterson and Poole decided that they must break it down.
Jekyll, I demand to see you. If you do not open this door, I will break it down.
Utterson, for God's sake, have mercy!
That is Hyde's voice. Down with the door, Poole.
Chapter 9. The Death of Hyde. Utterson struck the door with an axe 4 times, and each time a horrible scream came from within the cabinet. The 2 men entered the room. At first, everything seemed normal. But slowly, they realized that something was wrong.
We are too late. He is dead. Now we must find your master.
Poole and Utterson looked everywhere, but they could not find Jekyll. They did discover, however, that nobody had entered or left the laboratory.
I don't understand it. Let's go back to the cabinet.
Look! This is the drug that I bought from the chemist's. This mirror has seen some strange things.
Nothing stranger than Hyde. But why did Jekyll want this drug?
Then the 2 men looked among the papers under the paperweight and found Henry Jekylls' will. But now Utterson noticed some changes.
Here is Jekylls' will. But now he says he wants to leave everything to me. So why didn't Hyde destroy it? Look! Here is a note from Jekyll with today's date on it. Your master must be alive.
Read it, sir. Read it.
My dear Utterson, when you find this note, I will be gone forever. At this moment, I don't know how or why, but I am certain that my end is near. To discover why, go and read Lanyon's narrative and then read mine, which I leave you here. Your unhappy friend, Henry Jekyll.
Then Utterson found the large envelope containing Jekylls' narrative.
It is 10 o'clock now, Poole. I'm going home to read this. I'll be back at midnight. Then we can contact the police.
Chapter 10. Dr. Lanyon's narrative.
On the 9th of January I received a note from Henry Jekyll. He was desperate and asked me to go to his cabinet and get a drawer containing some chemicals.
Then I had to bring that drawer back to my office. At midnight a man would come to fetch it, he said. I went to Jekylls' cabinet and got the drawer as he told me. Then I returned home to wait for the man. It was almost midnight. For protection, I took out and loaded an old revolver. At midnight, somebody knocked on the door. I opened it, and there was a very strange and repulsive little man. He was dressed in a peculiar way.
"Have you got it? Have you got it?"
Come, sir, be calm. I have not yet met you." I sat down, and so did the little man, but he was very agitated.
"Yes, I have come on some very urgent business for Dr. Jekyll. I understood that a drawer—"
Yes, I know. There it is."
Now.
The man then mixed together some of the substances from the drawer.
"Now, sir, I can go away with this potion, or I can stay here. If I stay, you will see something very horrible, but very incredible. It is your decision."
I told him to stay, and it was then that I discovered that this horrible man was really Henry Jekyll. My colleague, Dr. Jekyll, was also Edward Hyde, the man wanted for the murder of Sir Danvers Carew.
Chapter 11. Henry Jekylls' full statement. Utterson then began to read Henry Jekylls' statement.
I was born in 1845. I had everything. I was wealthy, intelligent, and very ambitious. But despite my great professional success, I was always impatient with studying, and I had a secret life that was at odds with my life as a respected doctor. For some men, this is not a problem, but for me, there was always a terrible conflict. I wanted to be free, so I began to do certain experiments. Finally, I discovered a substance that could divide my personality, separate the good side from the evil side, and give each one a separate identity. The first time I took this drug, I felt a horrible pain. At that time, I did not have a mirror in my laboratory, so I could not see the result. It was late at night, and all the servants were sleeping. I went quickly and silently to my room. That was the first time that I saw Edward Hyde.
Chapter 12. The Sad End of Henry Jekyll.
Now I was free. I could live a double life. Except for the unfortunate accident with the little girl, everything was perfect. I lived my respectable life, and Hyde lived his life in the house with the black door in Soho. But one morning, when I woke up, I was still in bed, dressed in my nightshirt, but I had turned into Hyde without taking the drug. Hyde was becoming stronger and stronger. I had to make a decision. I decided to live only my good life and renounce the other one. I managed to do this for 2 months, but in October, I gave in and took the drug again. After 2 months locked up, Hyde was especially evil when I liberated him. That is why he killed Sir Danvers Carew with such violence. I was almost happy about this murder. Surely Hyde could not come out now because the police knew he was the killer of Carew. I thought that I was finally free of Edward Hyde. All went well until January. I was in Regent's Park, and again, without the drug, I suddenly became Hyde. No! From that moment on, I had to take more and more of the drug to become Jekyll again. But soon it was finished. It was then that I sent for Lanyon. Now it is March, and I cannot stay in this cabinet any longer. I do not know how this will end. Will Hyde die on the scaffold? Or will he have the courage to end it all? In any case, this is the sad end of Henry Jekyll.